Welcome to Modern Life is Goodish. I'm Dave Gorman, and I'm here tonight, as usual, with my laptop, my projector and my big screen. You know, things are a little bit different when I'm on tour. When I'm travelling around the country, I don't just take all this kit with me. I also take a few other things with me, including a dartboard that I can strap to the back of dressing room doors wherever I happen to be, to help me pass the time before shows. There it is, backstage in Reading. Here it is, backstage in Ipswich. It really is all glamour backstage, as you can see. Now, one night, I was in Birmingham, and I saw that someone had sent this tweet about my pre-show darting habits. I hear from the girls on the merch stand that Dave Gorman has brought his own dartboard. I'm not sure if this is V-cool or a bit sad. And that got me thinking, because I don't know either. Is having a dartboard backstage sad? Or is it cool? That's the question I put to you tonight, ladies and gentlemen. By show of hands, who here thinks it's cool? Okay, fair number of you. And who here thinks it's sad? Yeah, and a smaller number, but still significant number. That's interesting. Of course, the truth is, ladies and gentlemen, the truth is that you're all wrong. What's it got to do with you? It's my dartboard. I'm a grown man. I can enjoy whatever I want to bloody enjoy, can't I? It's not doing any harm to anyone, is it? Not unless they walk through the door at the wrong moment, but there you go. No, it's because of this idea that certain things are cool, that certain things are worthy of your time and attention, that we have to tolerate phrases like guilty pleasures. This phrase underpins a world in which only Shakespeare, worthy novels, classical music, jazz and popular music, if it was made by people who went to art school, should be enjoyed, and that everything else is beneath us. Celebrity interviews are full of this kind of stuff. We're always asking actors to tell us their guilty pleasures. This is Saran Jones, whose guilty pleasure is The Real Housewives of Cheshire. This is Patricia Arquette, whose guilty pleasure is a property show called House Hunters International. Why are you having any guilt about these? Why does nobody ever answer with an actual guilty pleasure? A pleasure that involves actual guilt. I want Saran Jones to go shoplifting. I bloody love shoplifting, me. Honestly, I stole a toaster this morning. I don't even like toast. I'm addicted. Nobody ever goes, oh, I like a lie-in with my sister. Nobody does that. Nobody ever names a particularly humiliating form of pornography or a crime, do they? Basically, what I'm saying is, if the world had taken the phrase guilty pleasures a bit more literally over these years, a lot of 1970s entertainers might have started their prison sentences a little bit sooner. Meryl Streep has got a guilty pleasure. I wonder what it is. Turns out it's TV shows like Homes Under the Hammer and Come Dine With Me. Why should she feel guilty about watching Homes Under the Hammer? If it was Homeless Under the Hammer, I'd understand. But it's not, is it? It's Homes Under the Hammer. I love Homes Under the Hammer. And I'm not going to let Meryl Streep make me feel guilty about it. I don't enjoy it ironically. I just like it. It's bloody good. And it does you no harm. So don't you dare judge me negatively for liking it. Right, I'm going to give you an example of the pleasure it brings me. If you're one of those few people who is unfamiliar with Homes Under the Hammer, maybe you've got a job or whatever. It's a show about people who buy properties at auction and then do them up, either to sell them on or to rent them out or to live in them, right? An important part of the format is that they always show the property before and after the renovation. Now, on this episode, they were featuring a particular house. And this is interesting, because this is the before. Okay, I'll tell you what, I'll show you what Martin Roberts has to say about the property on his first look around.
You could pretty much move in, couldn't you? It's lovely.
Yeah, you could pretty much move in, couldn't you? It's lovely. It's lovely. What they've got here is a property that doesn't need renovation, which is unique on Homes Under the Hammer, because the format involves seeing before and after. And you know what? They still do it. They still show you before and after, even though nothing has changed. And they do it with the flashy graphic between the two, right? No, honestly, just watch this. This is the beginning of the VT.
Decide to do a massive overhaul instead? Answer... no.
That's before. And that's after. It's nothing. It's nothing. It's brilliant, isn't it? Like, there was actually one detail in there that is changed. It's worth just showing this. I'll show you the before again. That's the before. Look at that. There's a barbecue in the kitchen. Watch the after here. We see the flash into the after. barbecue has gone. That's their renovation. They've moved the barbecue. And they do this on every room in the house. It's amazing, right? Here's the bathroom. We move into the bathroom. That's the before in the bathroom. Let's have a look at the after in the bathroom. It's got a barbecue in it. They've moved the barbecue from the kitchen to the bathroom. Look at that. Look at the pleasure this is bringing to these hundreds of people here. How dare you try and make us feel guilty for this pleasure, Meryl Streep? You know what? I see that barbecue and I think, up yours, Meryl Streep. Why should we be ashamed about enjoying that? Some people can't just be a fan of something. They can't just enjoy something on its own terms. Some people need to have that feeling of superiority. These are the kind of fans that suck the joy out of things for other people. They extract the joy from the situation. There's a name for these kind of fans. We call them extractor fans, obviously. Now, there are several different types of extractor fan. I'll talk you through the variety. The first type is the I can't believe you've never heard of extractor fan. What they do is they'll say something like, what do you make of the new Vincent Stethoscope single? And you go, sorry, Vincent Stethoscope? I'm not familiar with his work. And they go, I can't believe you've never heard of Vincent Stethoscope. He was Radio Diphthong's Artist of the Week about 3 months ago. And you go, what, sorry, Radio Diphthong? And he says, I can't believe you've never heard of Radio Diphthong. Don't you listen to any Armenian radio? Basically, they pretend to be appalled that you don't know something, when in reality, they would be appalled if you did, because that would threaten their sense of superiority. Then there is the, unless you like them as much as me, you're not a real fan, extractor fan. These are the people who'll tell you that you don't actually like a band, even though you do like them. To you, your proof that you like them is that you like them. That means nothing. If you haven't got the bootleg CD of the secret gig they recorded at Cagney Island in 1997, then you don't really like them at all. Apparently, you're pretending. And then there is the third type of extractor fan, the I don't like them now everyone else does extractor fan. I can tell from your reaction that we are all familiar with this particular type. If this is a graph charting a band's rise to fame over time, there will be a corresponding graph with a different axis showing an extractor fan's appreciation of the band over the same period of time. I'll tell you about the biggest extractor fan I know. Right? He's a friend of mine, lovely guy in every other regard, but my life, he loves his music and he loves feeling superior in that field. He is a high-level extractor fan. His name is Mickey, although he is known to me and a few mates by the affectionate nickname Mickeypedia. Right? I will set the scene for you. It is early January 2016. Now, if you're a David Bowie fan, why was January the 8th, 2016, important to you? He died? No? Oh, no, you're wrong. That's actually not the day he died. He released the album Black Star. I can't believe you lot didn't know that. You call yourself Bowie fans? That is ridiculous. You should be ashamed of yourselves. He released the album Black Star on January the 8th. He died on January the 10th. Now, on January the 9th, I was having coffee with my mate Mickeypedia. And on January the 9th, Mickey said to me, so what do you reckon to Black Star then? Now, on January the 9th, the day after it was released, I did not yet know the name of David Bowie's new album. I was probably going to end up owning it, but no part of me felt the need to get it on the day it was released. And this is Mickeypedia I was talking to, so I thought this was another Vincent Stethoscope situation. I thought Black Star was the name of a band I hadn't yet heard of. So I said, what, Black Star? Sorry, I don't know what they like. To which he replied, I can't believe you've not heard of Black Star, Dave. It's David Bowie's new album. And I said, all right, sorry, I didn't know it was out yet. And he said, I think a real Bowie fan would have known the title and release date of his latest album, Dave. Right, now, the next time I saw Mickey, it was early February. By that time, I had bought the album, and so because I knew it was a conversation with him, I was like, oh, do you know what? I've been listening to Black Star quite a lot recently. I like it. What do you make of it? And he said, and I quote, I can't listen to it anymore. There's no point now everyone else has got it. It's like he's sold out. Sold out? To Mickeypedia, the rise in popularity experienced by David Bowie because he had died was the equivalent of selling out. That is a high-level performance extractor fan right there. Now, we are going to take a little break. We will see you in a couple of minutes. Modern life is goodish, ladies and gentlemen. You know, I was at a wedding a little while ago, and I didn't really know many of the people there very well, and I was making small talk with someone when someone approached and just went, "Hey, Dave, settle an argument. Was Christopher Biggins ever in Doctor Who?" And I said, "I don't know, I haven't got a clue." And they said, "What do you mean you haven't got a clue? Call yourself a geek?" And I thought, well, no. Not really, I don't. That's not a thing I call myself. Although I am aware that other people quite often do. This person addresses me as a fellow geek. This person here says I am the bearded geek himself. Here, I am a sexy geek. Oh, yeah. Which would be flattering if it wasn't for the fact that James May appears in the same list. Although I must say, I do quite like his outfit. In fact, maybe that gets to the root of the matter. When people tell me I'm a geek, they normally give me two reasons. On the geek checklist, I qualify twice, apparently. Number one, I wear a check shirt. Yeah. Which I do. I admit, that is true. Yes, I do. Like the notorious geeks Ross Kemp and Bear Grylls. Yeah. That doesn't mean anything, does it? Check shirts are clearly worn by all types of people. But the other reason I'm told I'm a geek is apparently that I love computers. When people tell me I love computers, what they mean is I own a computer. Which I do, I admit I do, yeah. Just like the notorious geeks, Ross Kemp and Bear Grylls. It means as much as owning a fridge these days, for crying out loud. Besides, when people say to me, "Oh, you're a geek, you'll know about this," it's always because they want to talk to me about things that I have no knowledge of and no passion for. These are the topics people always talk to me about. Doctor Who. OK, the last episode of Doctor Who I watched was in 1984. I've never seen one since, right? Star Wars, I have seen one of the films. It was the first one. And incidentally, I know what happens when I say to Star Wars fans it was the first one. They go, "Ah, but which first one was it?" Right? I'm not interested, I'm not one of you. I mean the first one. Came out in 1977 when I was 6. I saw it when I was 6. I thought it was all right. But you know what? I was 6. Star Trek. Now, I do know the difference between Star Trek and Star Wars, but I have to think about it just a little bit because they're filed away in the same part of my brain. I have seen some of the 60s TV series Star Trek. I quite like the one with Abraham Lincoln in it. Other sci-fi. I know so little about the genre that I cannot remember any of the other names of all of the other sci-fi things that people try to talk to me about. You're really wasting your time. Superhero movies. Do you know what? I always thought that superhero movies were sci-fi. What with Superman being from another planet and Spider-Man being bitten by a radioactive spider and Batman having a heat ray gun that hasn't been developed by actual science fact yet. But you know what? Apparently, it turns out I was wrong. And I found out that I was wrong because of this show. In Series 1, I made a reference to this tweet, in particular, to my confusion on reading the words, "I'm Dent without any of the burns." And immediately, I was receiving tweets like this. "Ah, come on, Dave Gorman. Harvey Dent without the burns. Hashtag Batman." Which, one, isn't making things clearer. And two, is a fine example of an Extractor fan at work. That is just another way of going, "I can't believe you've never heard of Harvey Dent," isn't it? That's all that's doing. And they were far from alone. Honestly, I was besieged. Dent without the burns means Harvey Dent, a.k.a. Two-Face of Batman fame. I assume others have told you. Do you know what? Yes, they have. Yeah, that has happened. Your assumption is correct. But still, oh, you're going to carry on, are you? Fine, OK. Dent without the burns, Harvey Dent from Batman. He is the villain, Two-Face. Yeah, thank you for telling me a thing you assumed I had already been told. That was just the tip of the iceberg. There were plenty more where that came from, and it happens every time the show is repeated. And you know what? We are on Dave. It does happen. But at the time, I thought I could make it stop. I thought if I could head people off at the pass by letting people know that I knew, it would be OK. So I sent out a tweet saying, "A lot of people telling me what Dent without the burns means. I know now. Sorry, sci-fi and me don't mix well." Yeah. That was a mistake. Immediately, I get people going, "Is Batman sci-fi?" And it's only because of the context in which this happened that I know what they were saying was, "I think you'll find Batman isn't actually sci-fi." Up until that point, if I had read the sentence, "Is Batman sci-fi?" I would have thought it was a modern take on the rhetorical, "Is the Pope Catholic?" Did Saran Jones steal a toaster? His Batman sci-fi. That's how it makes sense to me. That's how it reads to me. Other people were less diplomatic. Oh, for flip's sake, that cock Dave Gorman thinks comic books are sci-fi. What a twit. How do people think Dave Gorman clever? He doesn't even know what genre Batman is. At Dave Gorman, you twit. And perhaps my favourite, always hated Dave Gorman. This tweet explains why. Twit calls himself a geek. I don't! Don't do that! I don't! But he thinks Batman's sci-fi. Hashtag nutshell. So now I know. But you know what? I don't care. It's still sci-fi to me. I know that right now there will be people tweeting me trying to persuade me that I should try one or all of these things because they know that I'll love them and it's crazy of me to not even find out about them. I do things. They're just not these things. And I have no desire to persuade you to do the things that I enjoy. Apart from Homes Under the Hammer. That's worth your time. Who here likes Homes Under the Hammer? Yeah, to be honest, I've gone off it now, you lot are all interested. Anyway, the more mainstream something is, the harder you have to try to qualify for geekdom. Say you spend your evenings looking at flags because you like flags. Then fair enough, you're probably quite fairly described as a flag geek. But if you spend your evenings looking at Star Trek because you like Star Trek, you're not a geek. You're just one of the many millions of people who enjoy one of the biggest TV shows in the world. If you go to conventions and speak Klingon, however, you're a Star Trek geek. That's how it works. I can explain it all and prove that I'm not a geek with a simple graph. It's really easy. What are you going to do here? If we put, like, mainstream culture on this side of the graph and then non-mainstream culture on that side of the graph, OK? Now, if you measure your knowledge and passion for things on the vertical axis, so that if you're up here, you know absolutely everything there is to know about a given topic, and if you're down here, you know nothing, OK? And obviously, if you're in the middle, you're somewhere in between. I think with something that is completely non-mainstream, most people know nothing about it. But if you talk about something that's completely mainstream, most people have heard quite a lot about it, whether they're into it or not. So if we draw a line between those 2 points, I think you have to be above that line to be a geek. I think what we've got there is the geek zone. And I've just realised that this proves there is one topic in which I could place myself in the geek zone. Which is this one. Turns out I'm a geek. We're going to take a little break now, just to give the flag geeks a chance to get the books out and work out which African nation's flag this most closely resembles. I'll see you after the break. Modern Life is Goodish, where before the break we were looking at the geek zone on this particular graph, and we were wondering which African nation's flag the graph most closely resembles. So for the sake of settling any arguments out there, it is pretty close to the flag of the Republic of the Congo. You know what I like to see in people? I like passion. I like to see passion for things. My favourite geeks are the ones that can be found in that part of the graph. They're the people with a real passion for something that almost nobody else cares about. And I like that. That's why I'm fascinated by specialist interest magazines, publications that are forensically interested in and endlessly enthusiastic about a subject that I will never understand. I'm talking about things like Horse and Hound. Horse and Hound magazine. I like Horse and Hound. It's about horses and hounds. I wonder where the balance between the two lies. Maybe the cover will tell the story. Yeah, it's mainly horses. It's mainly horses, definitely quite horse-heavy. I'm not sure it really should be called Horse and Hound. I think it really should be called There's Almost No Hounds and We Have Got a Lot of Horses. Or Barely Beagle. That would... Of course, if hounds are more your thing, you could always subscribe to Hounds magazine instead, which is much, much, much more hounds-based in its content. Personally, I know that I'm not really into hounds enough to buy this magazine. To be honest, I'm not really into hounds enough to call them hounds. I call them dogs. In my world, the word hounds only exist on the end of the words release the. That's what they're for. Now, it's easy to work out which magazine is for you. Just use the Venn diagram system. What you've got here is you've got the people who like horses and you've got the people who like hounds, OK? Obviously, there's a crossover in the middle there. They are the people who like horses and hounds. Of course, what unites them all is that they all hate foxes. Obvious, isn't it? Obvious. Now, another magazine that I like, another magazine that's a favourite of mine, is Cage and Aviary Birds magazine. Yeah? This one has a far simpler Venn diagram because you've got people who like cage birds and then you've got people who like aviary birds. And an aviary is a big cage. So basically, it's for people who like cage birds in big or small cages. But I love Cage and Aviary Bird magazine. I don't understand a word of it, but it's just so enthusiastic it draws you in. It's like looking at a celebrity magazine on an alien planet where they have birds instead of celebrities. I look at that and I think it's like a lad mag with Danny Dyer on the cover going, yeah, total legend. I see that and it's like Heat magazine with Tom Hiddleston and Taylor Swift with their displays of affection. OK magazine, inside Piers Morgan's stag do. It's exactly the same world, just reflected back at you. Sadly, my favourite part of Cage and Aviary Birds is no longer in the magazine. They used to have a regular feature called Desert Island Birds. It's a bit like Desert Island Discs. You have to imagine that you're stranded on a desert island and you get to choose your 5 favourite birds to take with you. Although this sort of ignores the fact that you're stranded and they're not. Because they're birds. This is genuinely why I like this kind of magazine. You learn things. Like this fella on this particular edition of Desert Island Birds, one of he's gone for is the superb starling. And the first time I read that, I thought, oh, fair enough, he wants a starling, but he's making sure they don't give him a shonky one. He's going, get me one of your best starlings. But it turns out that's not what he means. A superb starling is a type of starling. Its Latin name, Lampratornis superbus. Superbus, I like that. You've got to pronounce superbus correctly, haven't you? Because if it's superbus, it's Latin for superb, and if it's superbus, it's just a nice bus. And you're never going to read about that in Cage and Aviary Birds magazine, are you? Of course you're not. That's much more coach and bus week, isn't it? That's much more their kind of thing. But you know what? When I heard about a superb starling, my first thought was, how superb can a starling really be? I mean, that there is a common or garden, normal, common starling. This is a superb starling, and you don't think you're into birds, you are about to be excited. Look at that! Look at that! That is remarkable, isn't it? Common starling, superb starling. Common starling, superb starling. You get this a lot in nature, don't you? Common Nick Knowles, superb Nick Knowles. You get it a lot. I love this. I think we can all agree this is a genuinely superb starling, isn't it? Now, if you like birds, but you prefer them dead, then maybe shooting and conservation is more the publication for you. It's an interesting combination, that, isn't it? Shooting and conservation. I don't know what the balance is between people who like shooting and people who like conservation. The covers are usually a good guide, and, yeah, it's definitely more shooting. Definitely. Not much conservation going on the covers. But is shooting and conservation the magazine for you? Well, again, the Venn diagram helps, doesn't it? There are people who love shooting, obviously, and then you've got the people who love conservation. And obviously, in between those two, there is a bit of a crossover. Those are the people who love shooting and conservation. They're the target market for this particular magazine. And, of course, what unites these people is they all hate foxes. Even though I'm not into any of these topics, I think I would rather read Shooting and Conservation, Horse and Hound, or Cage and Aviary Birds before any of the gossipy showbiz magazines that are littering our world these days. As much as anything, because I know I can trust the images. For example, I know that that man hasn't been photoshopped to make his weapon look bigger. I know that horse isn't embarrassed about going grey, and I know that that finch's thigh gap is entirely natural. That's all it is. You know that these photos are honest. You can never be sure of that with the modern-day celebrity magazine, can you? I mean, for example, I'm certain the rest of Kylie's leg ought to be emerging from behind there, shouldn't it? I mean, it just feels like it should be, doesn't it? I mean, I don't want to be down on Kylie, or... well... She should be so lucky. But don't you just look at that picture and think, she does look a bit up herself. She really does. Now, I don't know if that is or isn't photoshopped, but I know that Photoshop is a frequent accusation that flies around in the magazine world. I'll tell you who the worst culprits are for my money. The worst magazine in the world for it is this lot. Every single cover. They don't stop. It is outrageous. This is a topic people are always saying I should talk about on the show. They see it as a very modern phenomenon. The truth is, I don't think it is a new issue. It's been around for a long time. Even before computers, people were doctoring photos, they were retouching photos in some way. I'll give you an example from very long ago. Here is a picture of a good-looking young man. Now, this photo first came to my attention when this book was published a few years ago. It was used on the front cover. Yes, that good-looking young man is Joseph Stalin, a man who went on to be responsible for the deaths of between 40 and 60 million people. When that book was first published, that picture was everywhere, and a lot of my female friends and gay male friends admitting to feeling a bit conflicted. And you don't have to look very hard to find people on Twitter expressing very similar opinions. Hot topic in the office this morning is how bangable young Stalin was. I am constantly depressed by the fact that young Stalin is one of the hottest men I've ever seen. Young Joe Stalin was pretty hot. Why are the cute ones always evil? You really want to check out her exes, don't you? I can't tell you what I've just done thinking of hot young Stalin. I think we've just discovered a genuine guilty pleasure there, haven't we? It feels weird saying it, but Stalin was a fitty. Look at those eyes. And his hair was superb. It was indeed. That is a superb Stalin. Not to be confused, of course, with the superb Stalin. Superb Stalin, very different. Also, don't confuse him with Nick Knowles either. Don't confuse him with Nick Knowles. Don't do that. But people shouldn't feel bad about finding that man attractive in that picture. It's an attractive picture. But it's an attractive picture because it was meant to be an attractive picture. It's been doctored. It's a propaganda photo created by his propaganda team. It's basically very early pre-computer Photoshop. If anything, they were better at it then. These days, it's like they're not even trying. I don't know if you saw this, right? It was the wedding of TV person Tanya Breyer, and as you can see, it was covered by Hello magazine, and Liz Hurley was one of the guests. There she is there with her son. There he is in his blue jeans and his Hurley face. And as you can see, Liz has got what appears to be a glass of champagne in her hand, whereas her son, Damien, who's 14 years of age, has got absolutely nothing in his hand. Nothing at all. Just a big champagne flute-shaped heap of nothingness. And, this got people chitter-chattering all over the place. Headlines left, right and centre. Not just questioning the photoshopping, but also opening up a debate about children and alcohol. As it goes, perfectly legal. He's 14, private function, he's with his parents. If they're OK with it, absolutely fine. And you know what? When the world starts jibber-jabbering about something as inconsequential as this, I find myself drawn to the bottom half of the internet. I want to see what the people down there have got to say for themselves. I've read every single story I can find on this particular non-scandal. I've turned my favourite of those comments into something more beautiful, something that I like to call a found poem that I would like to perform for you now. Booze Britain, broken Britain, broken booze Britain. This is everything that is wrong with modern Britain. People are throwing their arms up in horror over a 14-year-old lad drinking champagne. But they wouldn't bat an eyelid if he was 16 years old and pregnant. If this was my son chugging back the booze, I would be hauled over the coals by social services. But Hurley is rich, and so nothing will happen. Rules are only for us little people. A 14-year-old boy is a little person. The rules should definitely apply to him. I don't care if he is having a drink. I do care that he's wearing jeans to a wedding. I feel sorry for that young lad. When I was 14, I used to fantasise about Liz Hurley. He's 14 and can't have that fantasy. Because she is his mother. I've had port and lemon on Christmas Day since I was 5. I had my first beer when I was 2. I drank whiskey as a baby once. It was an accident and I was hospitalised. What kind of mother lets her son wear jeans to Tanya Breyer's wedding? The French and the Italians let their children drink at this age. Only in Britain could something so tame cause such a hoo-ha. You're absolutely right. And this is one of the many reasons why I voted for Brexit. I do not want other countries plying our youth with booze. The boy is just drinking champagne at a wedding, for crying out loud. It's not like he's slurping vodka out of a prostitute's belly button. No. But you can see from his eyes that it's only a matter of time. I thank you. The Bill Rock Ensemble, ladies and gentlemen. We're back after this short break. Welcome back to Modern Life is Goodish. Now, do you remember my friend, Mickeypedia, the Extractor fan? Yeah. Well, a couple of years ago, and it was that long ago, I had an idea for a little revenge. Actually, revenge is too big a word for it. I was really just planning to take the piss a little bit. It started when another friend of mine was working on this website, Guess Again Rock and Pop Edition. It's one of those cryptic picture clue things. You've got to spot 50 pop and rock stars hidden in the picture. So, for example, that's 5 Spice Jars dressed up like that. It's obviously the Spice Girls. That there is a metal liquor. That is Metallica. You see, you get the idea, right? Now, my friend Sarah is a web design, graphic designer type person. She was working on this for a radio station, and they were basically trying to copy the success of a website that you might have seen before called Look for Longer. With Look for Longer, it's not pop stars. This one contains clues to 100 London train stations. So, for example, that is a Green Witch, and that is a clue to Greenwich. You get the idea. I suppose when you have 100 clues, it's obvious that some of them will be better than others. I get Greenwich, I get Archway, but you can't have a jar of Piccadilly to represent Piccadilly, can you? And you can't have that to represent Canary Wharf. It's not even obvious what it's supposed to be, is it? I mean, is that Canary Woof or is it Canary Wolf? And does it matter, because neither woof nor wolf really sound like wharf, do they? Of course, if you're an avid reader of Cage and Aviary Bird magazine, you know it must be a Canary Wolf, obviously. That's by the by. Anyway, because Look for Longer was quite so successful, it has spawned a lot of copycats. So you get things like this in the Metro, which just gets it spectacularly wrong. You'll never spot and name the 28 TV programmes hidden in this picture. Metro, the idea of a cryptic picture clue is that you have to solve a little riddle. On yours, all you've got to do is read. Which, ironically, is the one thing most of his audience can't do. The pop star one that Sarah was working on had clues almost as bad as that. So she had to put this in, as an example, as a cryptic clue for Michael Jackson. See if you can solve this one. That's not a clue, that is the answer. She hated this job so much, not just because of the bad clues and stuff. The radio station that were paying for it, they suddenly changed their minds and pulled the plug and decided they weren't going to bother with the site after all. And then they started arguing that they shouldn't have to pay her for all the work she'd already done. She was understandably furious. And I'm hearing all of this, and the penny drops. I'm thinking, hang on, you mean there's a half-finished music quiz that costs thousands of pounds to build, and it's just sitting there doing nothing? And she said, yeah. I said, could we have it? Could I use it for something? And she said, yeah, if you can buy a domain to put it in, it's yours, right? So the idea formed. If we make up a load of bands and then make up some picture clues to bands that don't exist, we will have a music quiz that Mickeypedia can't do. And nothing would annoy him more than a music quiz he can't do. Except for a music quiz he can't do and that I can do. And I'll be able to do it because I made up the answers. So I bought a domain, I bought guessagain.co.uk, and we put this online, right? We weren't intending for anyone else to ever see it. And even if they find it, they're not going to spend more than 5 minutes looking at it because it's impossible. Our plan was get Mickey down to the pub one night, have a couple of friends in there before he arrives with an iPad playing the game. Mickey won't be able to resist the opportunity to show off his superior music knowledge. He'll get the Spice Girls and Metallica, and then he'll start struggling, and I'll turn up, lean over his shoulder and say, can I help you? And I'll say, oh, I'm not sure. What do you think this one is? And that one is 4 moles surrounding a cup of tea. And I go, oh, I don't know, let me think. It's a cup of tea, isn't it? It's a cup of char, a cup of china, it's a cuppa. What else? It's moles, it's moly, it's moly. It's a moly cuppa, a moly cuppa. It's a bit of a long shot, but maybe it's Molly Cooper. And look, in a world in which that is Canary Wharf, why the hell shouldn't that be Molly Cooper, right? It makes just as much sense. Apart from the fact that Molly Cooper doesn't exist. And so Mickey will go, Molly Cooper, who's Molly Cooper? And I'll go, I can't believe you haven't heard of Molly Cooper. How ridiculous. Then we'll enter the answer, Molly Cooper, and the website will go correct. And Mickey will finally know what it's like to be on the receiving end of some Extractor fanning. So that was the plan. And at this point, it is slightly annoying to have to tell you that the plan didn't work. And I'll tell you why it didn't work. It didn't work because Mickeypedia bloody moved house, which made being in the same pub as him a bit tricky, especially because his new house was in Canada. He generally just upped and moved to Canada without bloody telling any of us. Apparently, it was for work. Selfish kid. We had put hours into that. Anyway, he moved back at Christmas. And so now you must be thinking, well, then why didn't you revive the plan when he came back? And that is because I was on tour when he came back. And because, look, I registered the domain guessagain.co.uk in April 2015. After 8 months of not giving it a thought, I had forgotten we'd even done it. The first time I thought about it again was in July of this year, 16 months after it was created. I had a phone call from Sarah, my friend, the designer, going, have you been plugging Guess Again? I went, what, that? No, is it still up? I thought we only had it for a year. She said it's on auto-renew and it's getting a lot of hits. At which point, I'm getting a bit scared. I'm dreading discovering that it's getting a lot of hits. So I'm like, how many? And she says, about 6,000, right, which is a bit of a relief, I admit. She then says, are you online? I say, yeah. She says, I'm sending you some stats. Now, look, I cannot pretend to fully understand this, but it's obvious to me that something happened around here. I don't know what. Then I looked around, I felt a little bit relieved because the average user was spending 1.5 minutes there. I say that to Sarah and she goes, no, that's the average. Most people are there for seconds, but some people are spending hours there. They are tying themselves in knots and some of them are furious. So I started looking at where they were coming from, what links they were clicking on, and it's on quite a few forums. And let me tell you, those people are not happy. And she's right. People are spending hours there. I'm totally stuck on 8, and I've been staring at the damned thing for the last hour, too. I can't put this weasel quiz down. Nor me. Over the last few days, for crying out loud, days. I've been scanning through the Guinness Book of Hit Singles, looking at artists. People are doing research. And the more I look through their comments, the more I can see why they're hanging around. And if I'm honest, it's not all our fault. Some of it is because other people are messing with their heads. These are amongst the 16 comments on the site itself. Fleetwood Mac took ages. There's no such answer. He's making that up. How dare he? How dare he lie to try and waste other people's time? That is outrageous. Oh, I'm on 33 so far. No, you're not. Nobody is. There are only 9 real answers on there. Everyone gets to 9 and then gets stuck. And it traps you in so many other ways. Just when you're about to give up, you get another clue. And it's a clue that doesn't make sense, but you can get it, and it makes you feel superior to the quiz, and that keeps you there even longer. What about Mars with the mankini from Borat wrapped around it? Yeah, I think this might be my favourite clue. That's the clue there. And this person has a sarcastic suggestion as to how this clue might work. If this was an episode of 321, the answer would be Sacha Baron Cohen is known for his character Borat, who famously wore a green mankini. Yes, he did. Absolutely, yes, he did. Cohen also played the less popular character Bruno. Yes, he did. That is also true. So the answer is Bruno Mars, which obviously makes no sense, because that's the wrong character. But this chap then goes away and comes back to add, edited to add, for flip's sake. I just tried it on the website and it's correct. I'm done with this pile of shit. Except he wasn't done with it at all. He came back to say, edited to further add, and Michael Jackson isn't Michael Jackson. Yeah, I am genuinely sorry about that, because this was Sarah's least favourite clue, the Michael Jackson one up there, we changed the answer. So the correct answer is a made-up band called Jacko's Statue, which nobody has guessed. This definitely got people quite riled. How is Michael Jackson not Michael Jackson? Michael Jackson is right there. I typed Michael Jackson twice. Once with proper capitalisation. Still wrong. Fuck this site and fuck whoever made it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do this to you. I didn't. It's clear this genuinely got a little bit out of hand. But this was a learning experience for me. And what I learned is that for some people, this impossible quiz was like catnip. And I don't know this for sure, but I'm pretty sure that some of them were Extractor fans. And now I know that I don't need to be in the same room as someone to draw them in. That means the plan can change. So I spent 50 quid on some Facebook advertising for it. And it is amazing how targeted your advertising can be. You can target an age range, a geographical location, a hobby, an interest. And if you know the email address someone used to set up their Facebook account, you can even target an individual. So I did. And I knew it was worth it when I saw this. This isn't a forum where people were already congregating. This is a Facebook group that has been specifically created because of us. And this group is as full of rage as anything I have ever seen in my life. What clot designed this flipping quiz? How the F is Michael Jackson not Michael Jackson? This is the description for the group. This group is dedicated to damning the flipping clots who designed Guess Again to hell. I'm not allowed to name this group properly, but let it be known that the clots that have wasted my time on this piece of spit, flipping flip of a game, are clotting clots of the highest order. This is the person who created the group. This is the worst game in the history of the internet. Nobody knows more about bands than me. And I've only got flipping 9. This link will ruin your flipping life. And the man that created this group, his first name is Michael. But he's known to me as Mickeypedia. And right now, he's in the green room watching this on a monitor. Thank you for coming, Mickey. Thank you for coming. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching. Good night.